Hey, welcome. Today we're going to make a cake that's famous in Portugal and also in Japan. It's one of those recipes that in the age of discovery, Portugal brought over this recipe to Japan, and it's famous. You'll see it all over the place in Japan, especially around the Nagasaki area. It's called Pão-de-Ló, which is a Portuguese sponge cake. The thing that's really unique about sponge cakes is they don't use a ferment. They don't use baking soda, baking powder. They don't use yeast. It is just the air that you're incorporating into the batter that's allowing it to rise. So most cakes and breads, when you add a ferment, it's making the batter or the cake dough lighter. But once you put it in the oven, what is actually making that cake pop is steam. The water in the bread or the cake, that steam is expanding those bubbles in pockets of gluten. It's allowing it to rise. So in this recipe, there's no water, but there is, well, there's no direct water, but there's water in the eggs that's going to steam and add to that pop. A lot of European countries have a version of sponge cake. The most popular name for this cake is Pão-de-Ló, but you'll also hear it referred to as Pão de Castelo, and that means bread of the castle. And that is how the Japanese got the word for this. One big difference is in Portugal, it's often cooked in a bundt cake mold. Over there, it's almost always in little rectangle shapes that are perfectly cut in little rectangle pieces and often eaten plain. This cake is a great base cake to know how to make because you could turn this into a birthday cake, put it in round cake pans and cut them and put frosting in the middle, stack them up. You could also like cook it on a sheet pan and use it to line like an ice cream cake. Get a loaf pan, line it with this sponge cake and smash a bunch of softened ice cream in there, invert it, put whipped cream or frosting all over the outside. So it's a very versatile cake. The first thing you want to do is butter your mold. So I have all my ingredients ready. The eggs are separated. I don't often sift flour, but in this recipe, when you're folding in the flour and it's really delicate, it's a pretty good idea to sift it. Either you could use a sieve, or if you have a mechanical sifter, just good to get it everything as light as possible. Also have your oven preheated because as soon as all this stuff's incorporated, you want to get it in your oven right away to get the most rise out of it. In Portugal, this sponge cake is really popular around Christmas and Easter celebrations. 2 tablespoons of honey. Honey is a pain to measure out, so you kind of just get it close. If you don't have honey, you can use granulated sugar. Also, just honey is sweeter than sugar, so if you don't have honey, instead of putting 2 tablespoons of honey, you could add 3 tablespoons more of granulated sugar. Okay, we're all set. The oven's preheated. You want to make sure everything's ready to go. I do this in 2 parts. Some recipes, you'll see they combine the eggs and just whip it all together, but definitely you will get more volume from egg whites if you separate them and whip them. So I'm going to do the egg whites first because whenever you mix egg whites, you want a very clean bowl. You don't want any fat because fat will hinder egg whites. Also, egg whites are slightly alkaline, so they actually hold up better and get a little stiffer if you lower the pH. So I'm going to put in about a 1/4 teaspoon of lemon juice. You could put between a 1/4 and a 1/2 teaspoon. So a lot of recipes you'll see also use cream of tartar, so that's something you could add in too. It's like a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. The total recipe gets about 1/2 cup of sugar. I'm going to put about a 1/4 cup of the sugar in the egg whites and a 1/4 cup when I whip up the egg yolks. When you're making a meringue, which this is going to be a meringue now, you never want to put sugar from the very beginning. The proteins have to denature a little bit, so at least let it whip up until it gets to the frothy stage, and then I'll add about a 1/4 cup of the sugar into it. You can see that's only been going for about 30 seconds, but it's starting to get a little frothy, a lot of bubbles. So I'll start adding the sugar. You want to do this all at high speed when you're whipping egg whites. That's not bad, but it's not a stiff peak at all. That peak just flopped over right away. It's definitely getting some structure, but I'll go a little longer. See how that's kind of holding its peak? It folded over a little bit, but that's good. That's called the soft peak when it folds over. That's kind of what you want, soft peak to firm peak. The reason I add some sugar to this mixture now is because sugar also helps provide some structure to the meringue, which means it holds on to its air a little better. Put the meringue in a large bowl. I like using a large bowl because it makes it easier to fold in the ingredients later. Okay, just set the meringue to the side. You don't have to clean the bowl, you don't have to clean the beater. Connect it back together. Put in your egg yolks. Now I'll put in 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to put in the sugar while whipping the egg yolks, and you want to whip this until it's nice and fluffy also. It's not going to get anywhere as fluffy as like the egg whites, but you want to get air into it. And I'll slowly add in the sugar. You can see that's looking really airy now. I'm going to whip this just a little bit longer. I microwaved my honey for just about 10 seconds. You can see it's not as viscous now. That will allow me to pour it and it'll incorporate, because honey is so thick that it might not want to incorporate this well, and you want it all just to blend in easily together because you're just folding it. After, we're going to combine all this by a folding technique, the same technique you would use if you were doing like a souffle. And the reason you fold with like a big rubber spatula is you want to keep as much air in the batter as you can. Okay, now I'll slowly put in the honey. Now I'm going to slowly put in the flour that I already sifted. You can have the mixture going at a lower speed as you're adding in the flour. So now what we're going to do, we have our egg whites here. We're just going to put this batter into the egg white mixture. And it's really not that much flour in here. I mean, this is, you could see how airy this is going to be because most of this volume is air, hence the name sponge. You want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I like to preheat it to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and then after immediately turn it down to 350 just to help give it a pop of that steam coming off the cake. And now you just fold. You obviously can see the egg white, the egg yolk batter. You kind of want to just fold just until you don't see streaks anymore. So just be really kind of gentle. That's why it's nice to use the biggest bowl you have for this, kind of lets you get long sweeping motions. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I still could see streaks of egg white, probably 80 to 90% incorporated is just fine. So I have my bundt pan ready. My oven's preheated to 400. And this will go right in the oven. The cake just went in at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm going to lower the temperature to 350. If you want to check out another Portuguese recipe that was brought over to Japan, check out my escabeche recipe or peixinhos de horta. If you do have an instant digital read thermometer, which I always like to have, this cake will be done between 205, 210. You know it's done. This is how it looks after 15 minutes of cooking. Okay, the cake cooked for about 30 minutes. I probably could have pulled it out at 25 minutes. And you can see if I gently put this in. Right now it's registering 200 degrees. It was at 205. Remember, cakes or bread won't get much above 210 because that's close to the boiling point of water, so that's about their max temperature they'll get. But anyway, other signs, you can see it's nice and golden brown. This is still really hot. It's pulled away from the edges. That's another sign it's done. But most ovens aren't precise, and it depends on the temperature of your ingredients, so that's why there's always a range of a few minutes. Okay, we're ready to invert the cake. It's been cooling for about 20 minutes. Did not want to come out, so we'll just kind of go around gently making sure no areas are stuck. Smells so freaking good. Now we'll just I mean, just the texture of this is just so incredible. That turned out excellent. There you go. See, it's got a nice little spring, really good even crumb, and you got to give this a try. In Japan, when they make it in loaf pans, they cut out, like when they do the squares, they'll cut off the edges because they like theirs there, as you'll see in the pictures. The edges are completely clean and it's just brown on the top and the bottom, but the edges are clean. Just, they're methodical there. That's how they like it. But anyway, give this a try. Now you can make Pão-de-Ló. Go cook for someone you love.